Yes, my family, we are live. We're live. We're live. We're live. Let me see. Getting ready to go live on Instagram as well. Yep, we're live. Greetings, family. Giving
Mm-hmm.
thanks for technology. The technology. We used to say technology, tech knowledge, but
Hmm.
that was a little short-sighted to a certain extent. To a certain extent, it's
Mm.
truth too. But part of what happened is they take the knowledge and develop like civilization is supposed to advance, and this is something African people have shown the world from ancient times. Why we're now seeing what is called advancements in medicine and everything that our ancestors, again, from millennia before us, have already established. So, welcome to the ride. We're getting ready to interview our brother, get an interview of what's happening on the ground, as the description say, with an organization that, true to its name, is helping Africa by establishing schools at home and abroad. So we're gonna give you a moment for like and share the video. I'm about to light some incense because where I am, the mosquito them boy. You know that Bunny Wailer song, President Puta.
Mm.
Is the
So
mosquito?
let
Don't
me
see
ask you
that.
that. If
Yeah.
I want to, I guess, post on our page, for people to come over. What do I tell them to do? Is it the StreamYard, or they can just go
No,
to
just
the
come
app?
to my page. Just come to On the Farm on Instagram or my Ross Kofi page on Facebook. And for those of y'all who are with us, that's what we're asking you. We're taking a moment to ask you to like and share the video, spread the word, let them know we're on the radio, we're on the air. We're talking about
I'm on
Habesha,
the interview, Isla. Tell them I'm in the interview.
helping Africa by establishing schools at home and abroad. And we're coming up on another milestone. Every day we trudge through here and maintain and preserve our dignity, maintain and preserve our culture is a milestone. You see it? And now we're talking about a yearly annual milestone, 22nd year. 22 is a master number too. You know that.
Mm-hmm.
Number of building, you know, 2 plus 2 equals 4. There's nothing too mystic about it. We can see mystics in it, but there's nothing too mystic about it. It's just real life. It's mathematics.
Truly.
And so we're grateful for this organization that's been with us for 22 years, coming up in a few days. So we're just sharing the vibes and would love for you all to share the vibes with us. So please like and share the video. Let the family know we on. And we're going to get ready to reason with our brethren, Cashawn Myers, a.k.a. Bingy Sean, in a few moments. I didn't get the incense, but the mosquitoes and I, we had an conversation. We have an understanding, you know?
Mhm.
I had to check myself just as a matter of introduction before I make the formal introduction, even with the word sound, because it's the more you know, the more you're responsible for it. I'm deeply, intimately understanding of the fact that word sound is power, and it's what we give energy to. That's what we magnify. So I ain't even really want to bring up the mosquito them. So we just control alt delete that whole reasoning there. It is what it is. And
So,
speaking of mosquitoes, I'm also reminded in this moment that our ancestors in the Haitian Revolution, in this to set off the Haitian Revolution, the ceremony of Boy came on, Mama Cecile Fatima, Imam Bookman, and others. You know what they did? They went into an alligator swamp. Yeah. The mosquito was a big part of the Haitian Revolution too. Look up Macandal and see make the link with the mosquito. That's just some homework, true to form and true
Ancient.
to nature. You know. But just think about that for a minute as I get ready to reason with our brethren. Let me just let you know you'll hear us make mention of WRFG Radio. We're here to make this reasoning. You know, one of the main reasons that we're having this reasoning today is that it will air on our show, which is called The Ancestral Rock, which airs from 2 to 4 every Thursday afternoon Eastern Standard Time on WRFG Radio. So you'll hear me make mention of The Ancestral Rock. Well, you know, that whole energy of Boy Came On, I mean, think about the harmony that those Africans and others, the Taino and the whole nation that was gathered, you know, in a spirit of functional unity. Think about the harmony that they had to know, not believe in, not have read somewhere on the Instagram post. They had to know in order to go into an alligator swamp to have a serious meeting. Yeah. And the alligators then went and chopped them up, you know?
Serious.
You know what I'm saying? It's a serious thing. Because nowadays we just talk about it and it's not beating us up. What was in us is still here in us. It's just about reviving it, you know. But Alligator Swamp, I think one of my favorite DJs, Charlie Chaplin. And one day he was, you know, Charlie Chaplin liked to correct all the foolishness and bring his own Rastafari vibration to it. So he was talking about Pon the River, Pon the Bank, you know, the Elephant Man song. Chaplin said, Pon the river, pon the bank, what a cloth to no drop in a swamp. I you know said them the alligator now ramp, them just chop on your liver. Well, you know, the point is, an alligator swamp ain't no playground. But our ancestors of African liberation, who set off the most important, the most influential revolution of the past probably 300 years, especially in the Western Hemisphere, they established, they had their moment where they brought down the irritated genie in an alligator swamp. Just something to consider. But without any further ado, I want to welcome you all to the Ancestral Rock on WRFG 89.3 on the FM dial. We're actually celebrating our 28th year this year on the radio. Not all on the Ancestral Rock, of course, in different iterations. And our brother, who we're getting ready to introduce, has been with us very close to the beginning. You know, one of the things that one of the first marks that he helped to make in the city of Atlanta is through this program that we used to have called the Healer's Garden Club when we were on 89.3 on Friday evenings. You know, we inherited the spot that is really mastered and perfected in terms of a vortex for African people to get some grounding by our elder. She's now with the Igun. That's Mama Afrikiti. Those y'all who remember Mama Afrikiti. So it's just a legacy of heirloom culture that we celebrate. We want to welcome the executive director, founder of HABESHA'S Incorporated, our brother Cashawn Myers, otherwise known as Bingy Shan. Brethren,
Yeah. Give thanks, Kof. Look, you know, it's funny, right? Because I think this is the first time. I mean, we done some interviews before, but like having a live, I kind of felt like some in the studio WRFG vibe just now, man, when we was reasoning, you know, and just reflecting on those years, you know, in the early years, like you say, the Healer's Garden Club, and when we just used to be on the radio reasoning about growing your own food. That was like what, 2001. You know what I mean? Growing your own food and talking about how important it is, you know what I mean, for us to be connected to the land, to know our food source. And, you know, we used to ask the question then, what if Kroger, you know, shut down? What if Publix? What if we would, you know, and Ross Noah would always talk about the death of the dollar, you know, and Daydon would come on, you know, and to come in full circle now over 20 years later, to see where things are, and that food is central to everything right now that we're talking about. It's so critical. So we give thanks that we were able to, you know, begin these conversations on the airways, you know, over 20 years ago, and it's still relevant, even more so. And now the momentum like I said, now growing food is now like I always say, you're looking to make it, mainstream. It is mainstream now. It's pop culture. You know what I mean? Agriculture is pop culture now. It's like everybody, the farmer this, to this, that, and for me, some people would say they more the purists and say, well, this generation they're not as connected. Back then we was all about self-sufficiency, this and this. But I see it like, yo, we know that as we bring it to the masses, the ultimate foundation of what we're talking about is still the same. How that looks and how that gains momentum. The fire is it's a wildfire. The fire is
Mm-hmm.
out, so you can't determine where that fire gonna go, but know it's burning. And
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, the consciousness of the people around the food they eat and what they consume has been raised. So we give thanks for that. We give thanks for connecting it to the earth. We give thanks to connecting it to our identity as African people as well. So, I want to just start off. This is the first, I guess, interview or public thing I've done. But just want to give honor to Baba Oduno, our elder, who, we you utilize his term in Habesha works. There's no culture without agriculture. So he's the one who brought that around the world. So we just big up him as an elder, and we definitely stand on his shoulders, and we'll continue to make sure that we connect our food to our health, to our identity,
Right.
moving forward. So it feel good, man, just to be, reasoning with the eye traveling international. I traveling international. We see that it's grown from that time when we used to sit up at each other's house, brethren, and just
Right.
reason and talk about growing food, and you know what I
Serious.
mean. Had the
Serious.
youth around, and look at us now, man. So it's a blessing. We give thanks.
We truly give thanks. Truly give thanks. And that's where I really want to go first. As we start wide and then bring the family into the fold in terms of what's happening locally, practically, as I said, within the next few days. If you listen to WRFG, you've heard the announcement and everything. But one day I just said about food and what we were talking about 20 years ago. Of course, we weren't in any way bringing some new revelation. We was talking about what our elders showed us, but it
True.
wasn't chic as it wasn't as chic then. It wasn't as popular then. And let's talk about right now. You're in Ghana, really doing some great works with the continued establishment of the relatively new Kazi Institute, Kwekuando Sustainability Institute, and there I have your eyes on creation, just like we do. What, how? Just I don't want to assume that everybody understand what you just said in terms of how relevant it is and everything. Talk to us about food in this Gregorian 2024 and really how you see it, how you see the state of where the African people are as juxtaposed to our food sovereignty, beyond even security. Maybe
Mm,
security is the first step still, but just
mm,
just talk, where you see us right now in terms of the relevance of how food is so powerful and so necessary and all that kind of stuff.
Well, to me, I'll encapsulate it by saying this. Like recently, in January, big up Rasila. I think in Panama City they had Ralak. For
Mm-hmm.
those of us who know Rastafari ancient living arts and culture, they
Yeah.
had Ralak, the 10th annual Ralak, and one of the main forces or driving pieces around Ralak was to reinvigorate the Black Star Line,
Sure.
and being able to reason with Rasila, seeing, knowing, because one thing I love about Garvey, and that we the part that I think that we don't always think about, even with the Black Star Line, is a lot of that was around food and produce. You know
Talk
what I
about it.
mean? That was a main piece of it was, of course, people, right? Don't get me wrong, but they were looking at ships. Those ships had large cargo. Those ships had, I don't know what you call the under part of the ship, but
Mm-hmm.
we could store. And so the idea was to make that connection between the Americas, the Caribbean, and the continent, and put, to some extent, Europe, you know what I mean, where people of African descent were too. So I see it like the fact that even we're reinvigorating that discussion, and now we
Mm-hmm.
have black shipping companies. Big up
Mm.
Judge Mach Kwasi, who said he connected them ones with some black ship. We have black shipping companies, right? But on top of that, for me, my second born son, Kafense, big up Fense, he's taking his flight classes. So I already told him we doing the Black Star Line airliner. We doing
That's
the
it.
Black Star airline,
That's
to
it.
where we can now create that same vision above the water, Um, and so I say all that to say, to tie it in. One thing that I'm seeing everywhere, both on the continent, in the Caribbean, in the Americas, there's so many of us talking about growing our own food. Like you said, even the conversation that's elevated from food security
Mm-hmm.
to and big up Rasola, you know what I mean, who I got a chance to meet in person again when I came forward, pushing Black food sovereignty, right, which is that next step, you know what I mean, within this work. So, and to me, when we say Black food sovereignty now, that takes it to that international scope, right? Security is we can hold on to what we got.
Mm-hmm.
Sovereignty is now we can connect all of the pieces together. So I feel like for me, I feel even this calendar year, this is gonna be the year of connections. You know what I mean? This is gonna be the year that a lot of connections have been made because a lot of you think about when you plant a seed, right? We was just reasoning about the Boston spice that I got, the seeds I got from Guyana that's growing.
Mm-hmm.
When at first, honest, and it's been about maybe honestly, it's been maybe I planted them. It's been about three months. And I had the container that I had them in. I'm nursing them. I hadn't seen anything grow. I hadn't seen nothing come up. So I was like, man, at first I'm like, yo, ain't nothing going. Like these seeds, I was really looking forward to the Bucks and Spice. It wasn't until I kind of dug in and actually basically pulled the seed out
Mm-hmm.
I saw that the seed had bust and the cotyledon that bust and the inside was coming to grow the epicotyl as they call it. Those in Habesha
True,
words
true,
class know the hypocotyl, but it had bust. So that means it was working. It was
absolutely,
the creation had come. And
absolutely.
but guess what? I couldn't see that above the ground. So in some ways, I feel like that's where we are. Like the work we're doing is like that seed that even though we don't see that the seed has bust and is growing, it's actually right there. It's just about to come where we'll see the first few leaves coming in for the bust. It still ain't sprouted yet. So I feel like that's what it's a bubbling right now. You know what I mean? Worldwide, it's a bubbling. And we have challenges. We will continue to have challenges. One thing I see as His Majesty talk about the tide that sweeping Africa cannot be stayed is
Be
that
stayed.
the awakening is real
Mm-hmm.
and it's slowly happening. Even if you look here where I'm at, in some of our neighboring countries, you see these brothers in many of the francophone countries that saying, yo, it's time to flush out the French. It's time for us to
Mm-hmm.
go forward to our indigenous. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
And really, a lot of that, again, if we tie it into His Majesty and the original, purpose of the OAU was to have our own military, have our own economic, have our own banking,
Mm-hmm.
military, have our own travel, have everything connected, educational systems.
Mm-hmm.
So we're seeing not just on the food, but again, to me, I feel like the food is what actually was the impetus for this, Brethren. I feel like honestly, because we all eat,
Mm-hmm.
that was the galvanizing force.
Yeah. The Almighty is the best of planners and the master teacher. So we talk about pedagogy. That energy is always going to get our attention one way or the other. And I want to actually, we're gonna make this even like I forgot what they call it. It's not a free throw, but
So,
it's some memories, some utterances. Even as you was opening up and talking about how we got started, even on for my portion on the radio, but Habesha in general, which started about a year before INA Link. There were just there are some very key seeds that our elders planted in us in terms of thoughts, in terms of concepts, iceps, precepts, whatever you want to call it, that I know for a fact that Habesha has helped to germinate. Like you just give an example of that seed. One of them I think about is Dr. John Henry Clark, who simply said Pan-Africanism or perish. Pan-Africanism or perish. I want to ask you to make that touchable for us from the Habesha context. What has that journey been like? How does Habesha relate to that statement?
yeah, well, it's funny that I mentioned it because it's like, well, two things came to my mind as you were talking about the seeds. One thing, like those seeds that's been planted, I thought of my grandmother,
Mm-hmm.
Rosa Stevenson, and she said something that I always stick with, and it's been lingering with me forever, and I can't let it go. She would always say, manners will take you farther than money will.
True.
And to me, that's such a Pan-African thought or idea. I honestly can say that I've matured over the years to realize that my grandparents, my grandfather, my grandmother, many of my family members, my elders, where I grew up, big up Woodbine, Georgia, they had African values,
Mm-hmm.
but they didn't call them African values. They lived the African values.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that ties in this piece around Pan-African or perish, in the sense of we have to now live this Pan-African way. And it's not just because we know the countries in Africa, 54, 55 now and counting. It's not because we know all the principles of the Nguzo Saba. It's not because we have the freshest African drip. It really is those basic things around how we deal with each other, the
How we live.
integrity we have, the respect we have for ourselves, our family, our community, the earth. That to me is the initial Pan-African ideology. I
Yes,
think
sir.
many times we've gotten so thing now into this kind of geopolitical Pan-Africanism, which it is, don't get me wrong, but to me, at the core of being an African is about our value system.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that piece is the part, because we can have all of the exterior and know these things, but if we don't have those core values that our ancestors have passed on to us, and I see it so much here in Ghana, those core basic values, for instance, here in Ghana, everybody, whether it's English or Tree, which they're speaking, before they say anything, they're going to say please. In Tree, it says me paucho, or they say paucho. They'll say, please, can I have this? Please, can I have that? Matter of fact, there was a meme that went viral. Steve Harvey was doing a Family Feud program over here, and he
Mm-hmm.
asked the man if he was married. He asked one of the Ghanaian brothers if he was married, and the man said, no, please. And Steve Harvey just stopped, and the audience laughed. You know what I mean? He couldn't comprehend why he was saying please. And what he had to comprehend, and what I see that's embedded even in the language, because they saying it even in English now, right? That's not just treat. They say they've transferred that to the language that they, were forced to speak.
Right.
It shows the respect for humanity
Mm-hmm.
that the language has, which means it's embedded in the culture. It's so embedded in the culture. The language is really a window into the culture of a people. And that's why it's definitely important for us to have our indigenous language and know these things, because that's when we get to really know who we are and what we are. And so just to tie it in full circle, really this Pan-African or Paris to me is really, those are the things that's going to carry us through, even as much as we have, the institutions,
Mm-hmm.
we have to have the characteristics of what an African truly is. And to me, a true African is someone, a man and woman of integrity, of honor, of respect, that holds truth, that's connected to the earth. Those are, to me, Pan-African principles. So in some ways, my perspective on Pan-African unity has matured over the years to include, of course, we want to know the Nguzo side of the countries. That's the foundation of it. That's kind of like when you're building a house, that's the foundation. Now to really build that house, we need the pillars. And those pillars are those characteristics that our ancestors had that carried on for millennia, and how we were able to continue in our work. So I would say that Habesha, in reality, that's really what we're looking to be able to continue to build up and strengthen up, is those Pan-African goals and ideology. In addition to the other components, the for lack of a better word, the surface components, those embedded pieces,
Mm-hmm.
those characteristics, those qualities, those are the things to me that really are going to carry us forward
Yeah, and
into.
they're very practical too. I mean, stay with Dr. Clark for a minute. He also talks so much about how it's important not to focus so much of our intellectual and even our emotional energy on the kings and queens of antiquity. and just look at the fact that, well, who's gonna make the elevator, who's gonna make the toothbrush, and these are those principles that I feel you're speaking about is what sustains that productivity and that creativity even in the midst of pressure. You know, that's when
True.
because that's when you test something. Things are always tested in the fire. Things are always
Yes.
tested in the fire, and that brings our perfect segue to my next question. Another saying that we came up with. I remember as a young Russ hearing for the first time, and it stuck with me the first time I heard it. Ethiopia prepares to meet their king, and the Gentiles prepare for war.
Mm.
Ethiopia prepares to meet their king, and the Gentiles prepare for war. Now, taking that even beyond like the Rastafari ideology of who Haile Selassie first is to Rastafari and everything, and just looking at just Africans, indigenous people, it seemed like two realities going on right now in this world.
Mm.
So I just want to
Mm.
again ask you to help us relate how the Habesha movement has been navigating that reality. It's like, you said it in a certain kind of way. I don't remember what your words were just a minute ago. But basically, again, we're right at that cusp. We're right at the germination point, you know. And to even say that is beautiful,
I mean,
simply because, if no other reason, right now, what I'm thinking of is a lot of people, if you talk to them in the earth right now, they're talking about, well, we at the breaking point. We at the
mm.
point of destruction, but it's two realities, the end of one world and, the astrologists,
Mm.
the
Mm.
spiritual, teachers and
Mm.
everything, all of them are talking about this new world that we entering. Whether you want to
Mm.
look at it through quantum physics or through astrology or whatever. But we looking at it as Habesha, in terms of holistic. So again, help us to really contextualize that saying in terms
Yeah.
of 22 years of Habesha.
Even the first thing that came to my mind when I mentioned it, which is kind of a sub note, but it's also kind of connected. When you say Ethiopia comes to meet her king, it made me think of John C. Robinson, the brown condor of Ethiopia.
Mm,
And I always have to big him up, just plug him out there because I want us to do research. There's definitely more research on him. The brown condor, for those who don't know, anybody who's flown Ethiopian Airlines, is a black man from Florida who helped to create that airlines, which is the
mhm.
oldest African airline and the best African, but I would say international airline.
Period.
But it made me think of that because he came to Ethiopia, in the 30s. And
Hmm.
as you mentioned, Dr. Clark, many of us saw that documentary, A Great and Mighty Walk.
Hmm.
Dr. Clark talks about when many people in America, especially in Harlem, were trying to sign up to go and fight for
The volunteer,
Ethiopia against the
volunteer
Italians,
Ethiopians. Yes, sir.
but they weren't able to. And many of them, I had a professor at Howard that told me in the 20s when he was in his mother was born in California. Many people put Ethiopian on their birth certificate as their origins.
Hmm.
So that literally, when you say that, it literally took place. And to bring it full circle with Habesha, I think of it like this right here. When we were in 2019, when we started the development of Kazi in Liatewote, a place that we wanted to be self-sufficient, off the grid, growing our own food, being able to live in harmony with earth all the way, and using that space as a training and a learning, teaching, and a living site. We didn't know that COVID was going to come.
Hmm.
At the same time, when COVID came, it only affirmed what we were already doing, because guess what? Everybody was then saying, yo, we need to be our own food. We need to, be more self-sufficient. We need to be more healthy. It affirmed that what we were doing at the time was the right time. And
Fully, fully.
I say that to say, because Habesha, what we've always trying to do is be proactive, to be seeing the future that we want to see, the vision that we have of the future. We've always tried to step towards that. That doesn't mean that we're naive of the challenges, the saboteurs, the suffering, everything that's going on in the world. But we've always said, as Baba Wakesa said, we have to be warriors, healers, and builders. Because
simultaneously.
yeah, because he said what, if we're always in war mode, we'll self-destruct.
Yeah.
Right. If we're always in heal mode, that means there's always something there's always something we're reacting to, if you will. You
Right.
get what I'm saying?
Right.
We're healing.
Right.
The building is when we now are on that forward trajectory. So we have tried to simultaneously, like you say, war, but the war really is against the principalities, policies, and thoughts and philosophies
Yeah,
that try
man.
to
Weak our conception in high and low places. Yes, sir.
right? And now, as an organization, we said, like you say, simultaneously, how can we heal and we build? So we've always been trying to, as the I say, we're going to meet our king. We're going to create and be a part of what we see as the kingdom or the king mind, the higher self. And in
Yes.
every way, we know that's connected to the earth. You know what I mean? And we know at the root of it is Mama Africa, because that's really where everything started. So even like with a tree, you know, when we plant a tree and it's bearing fruit and the fruit aren't so nice or they deformed, they're having issues, we don't check the branches, we don't check the
Right.
leaves, we got to
I
check
mean,
to
you
see
better
what's
check the
going
root.
on with the root. Are we making sure that root is getting nourished? Is the root have what it's need? Is it being obstructed by anything? So Mama
Right.
Africa is that root. And we see that by nourishing the root, then by all means, the fruit, wherever they may be, will flourish. And so that's why we intentionally always said helping Africa. And so some people have asked me over the years, the acronym is helping Africa by establishing schools at home and abroad. They would always say, well, where's home and
Mm-hmm.
where's abroad?
Mm-hmm.
And I say, well, that is, to some levels, it's interpretation, because at the end of the day, to as I talked about the Pan-African piece, wherever we are, that's where Africa is. You know what I mean? And when we look at it from that philosophical, well, we also know that again, Africa is that root. You know what I
Right.
mean? And so home has to be there,
Right.
and abroad is every other place that we are as a people. And it's not just
Whole diaspora.
it's not just establishing a physical four walls and a roof school. It's a school of thought. It's a school of how we live. It's creating a certain mind state, again, with those principles that we talked about earlier: integrity, you know, honesty, truthfulness. Those are really the pillars of the school, as I was mentioning earlier about the foundation, and now the pillars
Mm-hmm.
that we want to use to build these schools. So everything we do within Habesha is aligned with that. We're going to, as I say, meet our king. We're going to be that higher self. You know what I mean? And guess what? Those who are against, you know, one of my favorite verses from the scripture is says Psalm 34 said the evil shall slay the wicked.
It's true,
So I
man.
always say, yo, if you don't have no part, if you ain't evil or you ain't wicked, you ain't got no part in that.
Right.
And in a lot of ways, we see that's what's happening right now. Like this, we have our own wars, you know, war in Congo and all of these things, but we know who's the puppeteers behind those wars. Those are the evil ones. And now we see where the evil and the wicked, because when you check, both the evil and the wicked, however you look at them, both have tried to harm us African people. They both have
Right.
their own hand, you know, in the pot, if you will, in the cookie jar. They both have blood on their hands. So that's not our war. You know what I mean? That's not our war. That our war is to make sure that we make Africa free, right? And initially, it's going to start with what? In our minds. That's why I mentioned earlier about this awakening that I see, and how COVID helped to usher in this, is
Yeah,
that we're seeing it.
it gave the impetus. It gave the impetus because, again, Marcus, you know, these quotations are not, again, just something from a fancy meme. They stay with us. That's why I
Truly,
love Proverbs so much. He
truly.
said, he told us, you know, we wouldn't know ourselves until our back against the wall. And that's what happened with COVID. All of the decades of teachers who sacrificed themselves, who people who just stuck their neck out just to love on our people, you know, in a way that sometimes wasn't accepted and our people wasn't ready for. all of a sudden, all of that, when you see now you emergency and nobody in this generation, not just age group, but the whole generation, meaning if you wasn't alive in the time of the plague, you ain't see that. Maybe some people witnessed it in the early 20th century with, what was that, the big flu or whatever was taking place. But the point is, this is something new that shook everybody, and of course, then instinct kick in. You know, instinct kick in, and where people gonna go? Like you said, where we gonna go to the bush? We gonna go
There
to
you
that
go.
rich we was taught to scorn the whole time, because that's. But she, even though we scorned her for a while, she never scorned us.
No.
So when we was in need of some type of salvation or some type of ease, Mama right there all the while. You know.
And what Ross Noah used to say? Ross Noah used to say, "What, when the death of the dollar comes, the farmer will be king." So even as I mentioned about going about us trotting to the king, like literally, like the farmer, it elevated the status of those that are connected with the land and those that grow their own food. You know what I mean? Like, to me, COVID, it showed the fragility of creation, in the sense of that any shift in creation can throw off everything. And only those who are in tune and in line with nature will be the ones that can make it through, regardless of what it is. Right? And so the farmer, those that were connected to the land, were in the best position. And in turn, Mama Africa, through COVID, was actually in the best position to succeed or to survive, because most of the people were, quote unquote, in these developed or developing nations. But what that meant is that the people would live closer to the land. That's really what, if you want to look at it, they try to make it seem like it's a people who live closer to the land are called, they haven't cut down most of their trees, destroyed their waterways, you know what I mean? Because remember, that's how they're talking about development. You got these concrete infrastructures, you know, extracting all of the resources from the land, you polluting your waterways, you polluting the air. That's development to them. You see what I'm saying? But those same developed nations were the ones that were the most struck by COVID. And the quote unquote developing nations, and where people of African descent were the least struck, because those people were connected to the land, so they used the land for their own benefit.
Man. They had to use practical skills. Seems like there's a delay, so I don't mean to talk over the. But
no, yes, I.
Yeah, they had to use them practical skills. You know, they had to know how to set up a wood fire. They had to know how to deal with, and the whole thing about nature. You know, natural events. Whether we want to say COVID was natural or like what some of us call it, the pandemic, but these natural phenomena, they do have a historical way of creating the impetus for us to pay attention to what we've been saying, what we've been hearing all along. I never forget that when I interviewed an elder, I don't want to say that because I'm not sure, but it's Prince Gabriel. I'm almost certain he transitioned. He one of the lieutenants, Ben Ami. You know, they was talking about how I was just asking them. You know, he wrote a book called The Impregnable People, and that was all about their journey, their exodus out of the New Rome. You know, it's now known as America. You know, and long story short, he was saying, you know, they was on the street corners. You know, them old jokes about the Hebrews and the street corners and everything. You know, memes and all. You know, silliness. People be trying to. You know, they you know, a lot of stereotypes come out of the reality, but the bottom line is they was preaching.
True.
It's time to
just like Malcolm.
And then the great snow of I don't know if it was 61 or 63 happened. And they was able to say, see? Next thing you know, is a plane load of ones headed to Liberia. You know what I'm saying? So for me, what that highlights more than anything, I mean, there's so many levels to that in the analysis. What that highlights to me, as we celebrating almost 22 years of HABESHA, helping Africa by establishing schools at home and abroad, is the great value that the sower of the seed has in creation.
Truly.
You know?
Truly.
And we talk about planting the seed in the ground, and we talking about planting the seeds in the people's mind, just who are sharing. again, living out them principles you talk about, living out
Yeah.
them core principles, you know, and so
Thank you.
just continue to do good. That's the message. Continue to do good. We're speaking to our brother Cashawn Myers, otherwise known as Bingy Shan, executive. I was gonna say executive producer, executive director of Habesha, founder. You know, one of the founders of Habesha Incorporated. Uh, we got to see him. For those of y'all who are in Atlanta, we got to see him for a brief moment last year, the previous year at the Organic Fest. And went back to our original location. Many great memories in that location, and a lot of beautiful things still happen in that location in the name of Habesha. So we're looking forward. We have our brother for a few more moments. We're looking forward to the anniversary celebration. So, Biggie Sean, again, I don't want to assume that anybody on here is familiar with what's been going on. So, let's take a moment to just kind of update the family, bring us up to speed on some of what you would consider, from your purview, some of the milestones that Habesha has reached, some of the achievements that Habesha has established within the last few years.
Well, I mean, first of all, I wanted to just big up the I Kofi, man, because honestly, they have been a great inspiration to me personally, and just with Habesha from the beginning, you know what I mean? And, the I has been the one who's helped to shape and mold the urban ag scene, the culture scene. The I has been planting all kind of seeds. As a teacher, for a long time, as a radio personality, as a artist, as a farmer, you know what I mean? So I just want to big up the I, man, and just say, I love the I, you know what I mean, as my good key
Same way.
brethren. Of
Same way.
course, I feel like, Buxton is my second home. So my
Yes,
wife is from
indeed.
Buxton, you know what I mean? So that means a
Same.
lot to me,
Yes,
and to see the I still on it, you know what I mean? It's a blessing. It's only a few ones you on the battlefield with from them long Iowa. So it's critical. And you've been most of the milestones, you've been right there side and side, to be honest, you know what I mean? Like, what you really is our children are, because really this work is like our these are like children to us, you know what I mean? It's like we birth this work, if you will, in that
definitely.
sense. And so we can see the milestones, as you say, from the, how people write on the door, they have the ticks of this, they grow this amount, and this amount, so for me it's beautiful to see. I think about one of my fondest memories, of Habesha, honestly, man, and I have those who remember from them early days mention it all the time, man. When we used to be at Georgia State every month with the African Film Showcase,
Mm.
um, College of Education, brethren, showing
Mm-hmm.
all the films we used to show.
Mm-hmm.
This was prior to, even a lot of the things around Habesha Works, but we used to show all the films. We used to
Mm-hmm.
big up Abishaka. We used to
Yeah.
always have a plug on the films, the
Yeah.
DVDs, the consciousness, and we would have these African film showcases every month,
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
performances, we have garments, we have food. But those memories, we went, it was like 6-7 years straight, man. Every month
Yeah.
we were doing films, you know what I
I
mean?
just
And
got chills, because that's the one time I had an extended any type of exchange in the flesh with Nana Bafur and Baba Asa Hilliard. It was right there in front
mm,
of room 101 in
mm,
the college education building.
there you go.
Yeah, man.
There you go.
And I think it's the guy who
Yes.
introduced me. My mama, that's my mama's comrade and everything. I know of
Right.
him,
That's
and all
right.
this kind of stuff. But I mean, that's the one time I got to shake his hand and really, block a sound. And that was right there at one of them movie nights.
You
Yeah,
know,
man.
that one, that's to me, that was really the impetus and the foundation of a lot of the things we did, including that. And of course, Organic Fest, you know what I mean, is it brought everything together. To me, those were two pillars, you know what I mean. And the funny thing is, it's kind of like that's the track, big up Baba Malik Yakini, because when I first met Baba Malik in 2011, when he came to one of the first urban, that I remember, the first urban agriculture conference in Atlanta, 2011, and Baba Malik came out, we just had started Habesha Works. And I remember he talked about what their slogan was, which was unapologetically black and green.
Mm-hmm.
And when he said it, it resonated so much to me, just that simple term, because I
Yeah.
always, up to that point, I felt like as an organization, Habesha, in some ways we operated in two different silos. And what I mean by that is there was one silo that was like this pro-black kind of pan-African, nationalist, black power um space that we were in as an organization. We, all the cultural events we there and connected with the families. And then there was also this more like environmental, even health, nutrition, agriculture, that was more of a, I wouldn't call it colorblind, if you will, but it didn't have that political consciousness or that political side of it, of the Pan-African.
Yeah.
And many times the black people in the green side, as I call it, weren't so, big on the Pan-African part. You know what I mean? They didn't make that connection to, it was more like we're the world, you know what I mean? We just need to get everybody have food. We just need to make sure we heal the earth, They weren't necessarily looking at it like, hey, the connection and the liberation of African people mentally, as far as our identity and our consciousness, is directly impacted and influences how we associate with food and how we connect with food. True. And then on the flip side, the pro-black Pan-Africanness, right, in many cases, just being real, looked down. And I had some ones who were big, prominent in the Pan-African movement come to me later and told me that, they kind of saw what we was doing in them early days as just hobby stuff, like going to, growing food and having gardens and all that stuff. They was like, we kind of looked down on that. That wasn't no real revolutionary work. That wasn't no, that wasn't really what it was about. That ain't black power. That's just some old hobby type of thing. You know what I mean? And we operated in these two worlds, right? And so when Baba Malik came up with this, when I heard him say it, this unapologetically black and green, it really resonated, because I felt like as an organization we were both, and I never saw it as a dichotomy, because I always see that as African people, we've always been the most green people. We've always been the most environmentally friendly people.
Naturally.
Right? That's always been in us.
Naturally. And even in the modern time, the MOVE organization is one of the progenitors of that in this modern Iowa.
Yes, I
am. We Abu Jamal, we all know of him. Many of us don't know of John Africa and Pam Africa. You know what I mean? All of the Ramona Africa and all of them, But that's straight up a green movement,
It's inspirational. It's one of the inspirations for HABESHA, like for real. You know what I mean? Because they was doing urban ag and all of these, basically that a lot of that is the blueprint of what they was doing. We now, because they call themselves Africa. So again, we've been standing on the shoulders of those who came before us, man. Like for real, this is
a long time.
We've been studying, you know what I mean? As the elders say, study to show thyself approved. Like, we've studied the movements. And one thing for me that I always try to do is when I study, and I think it's important, I think this is what those who come before us will want us to do. We study and look at the accomplishments and the great things, but we also have to look at the shortcomings of the things we could have done better, so we don't repeat.
Absolutely.
I think that's a part that we don't give enough attention to, is critically looking at our ancestors and seeing what are the things that we can improve on. As we big up, what can we improve on? You know what I mean? And like for me, I just being real, for me, Garvey is one of my, Jegnas, one of my ancestors that I look up to. And I also say, when I critically look at Garvey, I say that, what? One thing that could have been done better in the UNIA, and I think an emphasis more based on my studying, is really looking at the finances, accounting, bookkeeping, brethren.
Yeah.
And so for me, that's been one of my goals. I always say, if one thing gonna happen, we gonna make sure we keep our books right. And not to say they can't still come after you and this and that, but it's like, we don't want to give them no ammunition.
Right.
No ammunition. You over? That's not what we want. We don't want to give them no ammunition to be able to come, Aya. We want to make sure that we have everything, our T's, everything is crossed, our I's are dotted. And so I say that to say is, to me, that's why I say, as I think about Pan-African and being a Pan-African, it's the next level that we now have to go to, how we operate, how we deal with each other, how we run our organizations, how we this is that next level outside of the philosophical. We got that part, and we'll continue to build on that. We now have to build on how we set structure our institutions, because what I want to see is that just how Garvey and others are inspirational to us in this generation, we now are the inspiration for the next generations. Not just the inspiration, we now have institutions in place that they can still be a part of. That's why I love Ethiopian Airlines, brethren.
The
And we
Ethiopian
give them
Airlines is top quality. Yeah.
that's what I say. But I say also it's an institution that's built and it has continued. You know what I mean? These are legacy pieces. This is what I strive and what I see, even as we talk about with Habesha moving forward, is to create this legacy piece. And you know, as an organization, we've actually evolved and grown over these 22 years to now really a main piece of what we want to do is help to, and it's always been in our mission to cultivate leadership. Now, practically, because we have a cadre of alumni of over 400 alumni through our various programs, through Black to Our Roots, Habesha Works, Old Urban Green Jobs, you know, Halo, and now the Sankofa Black and Green Fellowship. We want to be able to cultivate these leaders so they can make those exponential impact. Because, you know, out of those 400 people we train, it's one thing just to train someone. Like we know the saying, teach somebody, you give someone fish, they eat for a day, you teach them how to fish, they eat for a lifetime. So that same concept, really, we want to train the trainers. We want to teach the teachers. So that's really, as an organization, where we now pride ourselves in, that we can see people who have gone through our program, have started organizations or businesses, and now they're impacting others. You know what I mean? They're doing the work.
One of our Jegnas, Walimu Julius Nyeri, said, you know, and Queen Mother Moore repeated it: "We're not successful until our successful are successful."
There you go.
And so I mean, everything that I'm saying, I feel it, because it's the relay race. You know, Neighborhood Nip said it in a very profound way: the marathon continues.
There
You know
you
what I'm
go.
saying? Like for real, the marathon continues. So grateful to all the elders who have come, and nothing new under the sun, you know, because these conversations, the very reason we have it right now, has been had time and time again, you know.
Truly.
And time provides us the impetus if we apply wisdom to, and as you said, critical analysis, you know what I mean, and applying, how I see it, is just you've kind of laid out all of the key components, how we put this thing together, you know, applying wisdom and critical analysis.
Truly.
And moving with Ma'at, you know, moving with those principles, quintuples, whatever you want to call it, Nguzu Saba, and the principles of Ma'at, or whatever, you know, Iwa Puele, whatever you want to, however you want to name it. Good character, you know, balanced character. You know what I mean?
There you go.
This is the formula. So it's not really that complicated. It's not really that complicated. So when I'm thinking of when I was at True Living Well, and True Living Well purchased the Habesha curriculum, Urban Growers curriculum, and then, you know, embellished it. And one of the concepts that came to me there that I just live with, even in this moment as we're talking about this, that really kind of summarizes all of that, is the plant positive versus pest negative. So we can really look at all that's going on in the world. There's a lot of madness in the world. But that is based on the fact that it's the principle, as I understand it. I want you to correct me. The guy is probably one of the authors of that whole curriculum. Is that it's based on the fundamental principle that parasites only attack weak cells. See, a parasite cannot live without a host. So therefore, and as we heard many years ago, you know, many times, two things can't exist in one space at one time. So based on that reality, which is a scientific reality, you know, then we go forward with the fact that if you just build up that which you love, that's why, you know, when people talk about the law of attraction and all that, is real. I don't care how you want to frame it now, and people try to frame it like some neo whatever. It's all real. It's all our Kemetic ancestors were teaching us that thousands of years ago. So when we focus on what it is that we're seeking to build up, and we just strengthen that up, we ain't even got to worry about the organic or the pesticide or the chemical pesticide. You know?
Build the
Being our
soil, like build the soil.
we just build the soil and build up strong plant, and that
That's it.
speaks for itself.
That's
So,
it, brother.
looking at that in terms of a reality of movement, I salute Habesha because
Give thanks.
we've seen in very clear ways. We've seen in very clear ways that how, and one of the most precious things for me, because I wanna shift gears for a moment to talk about um, some really practical shoulders we stand on. That's Baba Tariq Aduno. You mentioned him at the beginning. I
Yes,
really
sir.
want to, spend some moments really reasoning with him about him with the eye, as we haven't
Yeah.
even done that really. I don't even think privately, much less publicly, since he
True,
transitioned.
true,
But
true, true, true.
yeah, it's just really that simple, man. It's just really that simple. It's like, if I and I just live out what we've already been told to do and what we have had the experience doing, then we have what we're looking for. We have what we're looking for already.
True.
So there's nothing they used to say back in the days, if you talk so-called proper English, you're trying to be white.
Mm.
That same trend is there in terms of some of the concepts that are being popularly pushed by European people, but it's
Mm.
indigenous concepts.
Yes.
You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like the law of attraction and all these things. These are indigenous concepts. As a man
True.
or woman think it in his heart, so is he or she. That's just what it is. So
Give
yeah, we
thanks,
speaking to our brother Cashawn Myers of HABESHA'S Incorporated. Coming up on, I believe it's February the 3rd,
yes,
is
sir.
second anniversary celebration. Let us know a little bit about that. But before you do that, let's talk a little bit about Baba Tariq Aduno. We just had his 40-day celebration, the 40th day of his transition. I mean, I remember seeing a brother manifest. I was down in the bush. I was just scrolling through Instagram, and he's talking about. He made a post that I was like, he must mean
Mm.
something else. And I called him and he said, "Yeah, man, it's real about I do no transition, bro. I cried real tears, you know,
Mm.
with gratitude, with gratitude,
Mm-hmm.
because this is a man that has given us so much. I mean, I want to invite the eye to just share a little bit about what his life has meant to the eye. I just started thinking about how he'll call you at random time and just drop a dime on you, and as like a true elder, like a true elder. My father is the same way. There's a lot of elders, and I can understand why they wait on you to call them. They're in their portion, like, well, I'm an elder, so that's But there's some people who overstand they keep the youthfulness,
Truly.
their
Truly.
youthfulness, and they keep that humility. So while they're not going to take disrespect, they also know that, okay, well, now these are our children, and the nation is on their shoulders. So while I'm in my next station now, let me strengthen them with all, like, you know what I mean? And that's
Mm-hmm.
Baba Bruno for me. I don't want to take up the time though, because I could go on for days about Baba, but just share with us some of your memories of Baba Tariq Aduno. You know him before, right?
Yeah, and even as I mentioned that, something that came to my mind that ties into that, and it's even with Baba Duno, Malidoma Somé in the book of Water and the Spirit, he
Sure,
mentions the relationship that he had with his grandfather.
sure.
And what he said was that there's a close relationship, even closer many times than the son and father than the grandson and grandfather. And he said the reason why, because the child has just come from the ancestral realm,
Right.
and the grandfather or the elder is going and returning to the ancestral realm.
Sure.
So they're actually in a closer place, if you will. You know what I mean? The spiritual connection is closer. And so, even as you talk about Babo Duno and just elders in general, to me, some of my most revered elders are the ones who really had such a youthful spirit. You know what I mean? Like they were able to connect with the youth. You know what I mean? To me, that's a real elder. An elder is one who can really connect with the youth without trying to be a youth. You know what I mean? It's a difference. You see some people who trying to make it seem like they, you know what I mean? No, it's to have that useful iris. You know what I mean? And Baba Oduno most definitely had that. You know, as I mentioned, I haven't, you know, publicly even, you know, said anything about Baba Oduno. It definitely hit me hard. You know what I mean? I'm still processing it just because, you know, he was such a pillar, like I said, in so many ways that we use that as our, we wanted to spread that word sound, there's no agriculture without agriculture, to everyone, because we wanted to honor him. And we always make sure, one thing that I do, and I'll encourage people, anyone who knows him and uses it, I make sure that I reference Baba Oduno when I'm using that word sound. You know what I mean? Especially if I'm having any kind of documentation. But even when I'm talking about it, I always mention, because, you know, some people see me and they'll think, oh yeah, Habesha, there's no, and I always have to say, yo, we got that from our elder. You know what I mean?
Same way.
But
Some people are out on the stage and people feel like it's something I came up with. Like, no, that's Baba Tariq Aduno.
No, but check this out. Speaking of stage, though, that's the mystic. Let me tell you, and I think the I may know this story, but just for ones to know how I actually heard the word sound, like basically how you say someone name precedes them.
Yes.
I was coming into graduate school at Howard, and literally like my first day on campus, on the yard, they had like a little concert. And you know, I'm there just kind of checking the vibe out, and in the back, I kind of was on my way leaving, and I heard in a distance, there's no culture without agriculture, no culture, and it just hit me. I turned around to go back and see what was happening, what was going on. And I looked, and there was a brethren there that had a guitar that was singing a song. Coming to find out, you know, big up the brethren, Ras D. For those they know Ras D. Ras D had come up with a song based on Baba Oduno's word sound. And this was like 98, brethren. This was 98. So I heard that and it touched me. So I, you know, afterwards I went and reasoned with the brethren, asked him about it. And it wasn't until maybe another 6 to 8 months that I got a chance to actually meet Baba Oduno in the flesh. And how I met him was at that time in DC, the Nyabingi house. We used to connect with a brother named Axum. Big up Axum. Axum he's still in DC. He used to be the urban ag director at the University of DC, so he's doing some great agricultural works. But he had a farm out in Maryland, and we used to, you know, go out to the farm and work and learn. And that's when I first met Baba Oduno. And man, when I first met him, like you say, he has such a youthful iris. It's just like, you know, his energy is so high. He's super knowledgeable. And then he have these one-liners that he will always kind of just throw out there to you. Like he always just had a jewel he gonna drop on you, you know? And that began really a almost 30-year, you know, relationship that I had with Baba. And just like you said, getting tidbits of wisdom from him, seeing him in Virginia when we would go down to events. Of course, anytime we doing anything in DC, you know, we used to do the Sankofa Roots Fest at Sankofa. Always seeing Baba around, and really the praise and honor that he gave unto Dr. Carver.
Yes.
And not only that, the historical references that he could bring out of his mind. Baba could, because remember, he UNIA same way. So he that black and green. You see what I'm saying?
Baba Oduno, and my aunt Dot, I think they met Aunt Dot one time. We used to call her AJC. She transitioned in April. We used to call her AJC because she keep the whole family up to date with what's going on. That's Baba Oduno on a universal African vibe. And you know, he'll connect the dots. You mentioned anything. I remember one time I was taking my bonus son, Akinwole, on a college tour.
Say,
Baba Oduno happened to call when we was in Richard Allen City, Philadelphia. And he just started going, okay, and he's talking to the young man, where you want to go? What you want to do? And as soon as he's talking about camera, he said, I want to do a photographer. Oh, well, you got to know about this person, and this person, and then the Harlem Renaissance, you know what I mean? And take it from Mississippi to Ghana Forward to New York, forward to Louisiana, which he loved. Forward to,
Brethren.
yeah, it's a serious,
To
a very,
Beaumont.
yeah, a very agile elder, not just physically, but
True,
just his
true.
mental, his emotional
Mentally,
agility.
yes,
Yeah,
yes. No, powerful elder. No, man, I give thanks for Baba Oduno.
yeah.
And what I feel so great about, I give thanks because I don't know if they had seen that uh video that Kwasi has, but Kwasi got the last interview with Baba Oduno maybe about 4 or 5 months ago, 4 or 5 months
No,
before he
AC.
passed. An extensive interview. He got the Lion Talk, the Just Match Kwasi. He got his YouTube. He got an extensive interview with Baba Oduno.
Give thanks.
Extensive, and it's almost mystic, like I said, because it was like, yo, we have been reasoning about Baba Oduno, and one of the things we were talking about, because honestly, I had heard that there were some people looking to trademark the term "there's no culture without agriculture," and they had no connection to Baba Oduno. And so I had reached out to Kwasi. I was like, Kwasi, I'm hearing some things. I say, yo, let's reach out to Baba Oduno and see what we need to do to get it trademarked in his name. You know what I mean? Let's make
Right.
sure he get credit for it, blah, blah, blah. And so Kwasi said, yo, I'm gonna reach out. And part of him doing that interview was the first steps to be able to document his
Mm,
ownership, if you will, of that word sound. You know what I
mm.
mean? And now we
Intellectual
can create
property.
that precedent. So it was really foresight on Kwasi's part. Give thanks
Yeah,
to have that interview, not knowing that he would soon transition. So that's
true.
a powerful, powerful interview that Kwasi did on Baba Oduno, man. And I actually learned a lot just from the interview too, because he taking it to his childhood and Beaumont and this. He gonna drop all kind of dates on you. He gonna drop not just a year. He
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
tell you the day, brethren. Sometime maybe even a day of the week. You know what I
He's gonna
mean?
take you all the way through, man. He's gonna take you all the way through.
Trust me,
You
Aya.
listening to the Ancestral Rock on your station for progressive information. I want to greet everyone joining us on the line right now. I see my godmother all the way from Nigeria, Bingishan, your next door neighbor. That's
Bless
Iao
up.
Joe. Agbato Iao Joe. Thank you so much for joining us, all of you. Black Eye, our
Oh,
sister
hello,
Black
Black
Series.
Eye.
Yeah, man.
Black Eye, brethren. Looking forward to seeing you on this side, King.
It's my brethren for years, for years and years. Asante
Man,
Mama. Asante Sana.
Asante
Big
Mama.
tune. I don't
Yes,
want to
I.
start calling names because, I don't, much respect to everyone. I don't want to miss
Much
anyone.
love, brethren.
But
Give
this
thanks.
is the Ancestral Rock on your station for progressive information and handpicked quality music. In a few more moments, we have with our brother Cashawn Myers, otherwise known as Bingy Sean. I want to ask you to share with us the details about the upcoming 22-year celebration. And I want to ask for that in two parts. First of all, like what's going on physically, where's the gathering and everything, and also
Right.
how can we continue? How can the family continue to support Habesha? One of the
Truly.
remarkable things about Habesha was just getting ready. I had lost my train of thought for a minute earlier, but the fact that Habesha is truly for us by us. It's
All the
truly
way.
like them said in our room, who paid the piper called the tune.
Say.
The fact that Habesha is financed, by the community for real. So what that does, that's not no shade to anyone who gets finances from anywhere else. It's just to say though that as an organization that is serious about being uncompromised and uncompromising in terms of African liberation, you know what I mean? That means that they put themselves in the position where it's not gonna be somebody dictating what you can say.
Truly.
Just like WRFG Radio, we celebrating 51 years this year.
Big up.
Our motto, untouched by the commercial hands or the sweaty hands of commercial greed,
Truly.
No weapons manufacturers ain't giving ain't no check, so they can't tell ain't nothing, Black Eye
Truly.
asked a question earlier about some of Vietnamese followers signing up for the IDF, the Israel Defense Force.
I heard about
I've heard
that.
that before. I pray it's not so because that's an abomination. Period. Non-partial. It's against humanity. See?
Yep.
And we know the long history of the solidarity with the African people of the continent and the people in Palestine and other areas. We know
Yes,
there's been
sir.
tensions with the Arab people of the world, and many of them as it relates to Africa too. So we're not skirt around that. But we know fully the fullness of why that has been a long relationship of solidarity is because first things first.
True.
Let's get rid of the virus, the common virus, and then we can settle our internal scores.
That's right. There you
We got to
go.
get rid of the common virus, you know.
We have to purge, detox, brethren.
Yeah, serious thing. But anyway, the question is, how can we continue to celebrate and to continue to sustain this organization that has been doing the great works, building from the ground up? If no one has been to, if for those of you who are listening to us, you've never been to Kazi, the Kwekuando Science Institute, or the Kwekuando Sustainability Institute, I can bear witness. I've been there myself. and it was a powerful journey. I got Biggie Sean can tell you, every day I'm in Liatewote, even though you don't see me. From that time,
that's
from
the
that
message,
time,
man.
from that
That's
time, a sweet place, you know, a sweet place. And Dr. Ando, even as a side note, I was gifted a book recently in Nigeria, you know, by my godfather. I just see my godmother. It just reminded me of it, and it was a book by one of the great Yoruba priests. You call him Baba Araba, but long story short, I'm reading the book, and guess who published the book? Guess who published the first edition? North Scale Institute.
Wow. You see that? You see that?
North Scale Institute, man.
Wow, come on. That's a blessing, Aya. The reach is far.
Mama Kali.
The reach is far, Reggie. No,
Yeah.
big up Mama Kali, man. We look, the reach is that's why we want to be able to honor Dr. Ando, because the touch that he had, the reach that he had worldwide, is we just uncovering it. Like you see how you just all these years later, brethren. Let's not even get into Dr. Ando. I mean, come on, man. Like I say, man, we got so many examples of greatness, man, both from a ancient historical perspective. We got a lot of modern day great, you know, both ancestors and living, man. And Dr. Ando, to me, you know, he embodied that thirst for knowledge, that love of nature, that willing to share, and that passion for teaching and conveying his love of Africa. And we really, as an organization, you know, that's what we, you know, really want to embody. And honestly, this 22nd anniversary celebration is really that. You know, it's a way just to embody our greatness and to show and to highlight really those who have continued on the traditions of those before us. You know what I mean? We really will be highlighting a lot of our alumni, because again, to me, what makes Habesha as an organization so strong is the people that have gone through our program and represented afterwards. You know what I mean? I remember when we first started Habesha Works and we said we wanted to do a certification in urban agriculture. You know, so some of the people we were looking to help support us and sponsor us, these were, you know, organizations run by Black folks. You know what I mean? The first thing they asked me was, who certified us to give other people certifications? And when they said that, I knew right then that they didn't understand the concept of self-determination. And I knew there was no way that they could be our supporters, because they would end up sabotaging. Because many times when we don't, what's the saying? It's one of the saying say, I don't know if it's a Willie Lynch, but it's something that say basically you train a person that goes to
Carter G. Woodson. Yeah, man.
Yes. I know it better than me. But basically you teach them to go to the back door, and even if ain't no back door there,
they're gonna find a back door.
Build a back door, brethren.
They're gonna find a back door.
They'll find one. Even if the front door is the only thing there, they're gonna go through the window or something, brethren. So I say all that to say,
because the white man ice is colder.
So I say all that to say, that's always been what the spirit of Habesha is, and that's what this celebration is, just to highlight, you know, the 22 years. And this year we're celebrating 22 years of reparative agriculture, you know, and we have been introducing this word sound, reparative agriculture. When I was, you know, stateside, we talked about reparative agriculture and how many of us are already operating in this space. You know, the I and others, we're already doing the work of reparative agriculture, because this work connecting with the earth is really to repair us as African people. help us to reconnect with our identity, repair our disconnect that we have to the earth, because our enslavement interrupted our connection to the earth, even
True.
though we were in the earth more
Mm-hmm.
in many cases by
Not on
force.
our own terms. Yeah, not on our own terms.
Exactly. Our true connection to the earth, we weren't able to have it like we were supposed to. So now we're returning to loving Mama Earth the way she's supposed to be loved, and she's grateful and ready to love us the way
Sure.
we should be loved.
Sure. Should
So this is a
reciprocate.
highlight of that, man. And we're gonna have, some performances, some musical selection. We got a 3-course vegan meal. We're gonna have some special guests and really just sharing about what we're doing. We'll have vendors. Many of our alumni will be there with their services and goods, so you'll get a chance to see and hear. And we're excited to even have it at the location we're having it at, because that space there, many of the people in Atlanta who have done great community work have come out of either this newer location,
Mm-hmm.
as I know Roscoe, the old location. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Back in the day, that was appealing the community. Well, we talking about the Arts Exchange. You know what I mean? For those who've been around the A for long enough, you know the old Arts Exchange. You know what I mean? But we had the new location now, or the newer location, if you will, in East
Sure.
Point at 2148 Newman Street. So, as I said, February 3rd, Saturday, not this Saturday, the next Saturday, 4 to 8 p.m., man. We would love our family in the metro Atlanta area or anywhere nearby to come and join us, come celebrate with us, come really just be inspired by a lot of the alumni and those who are doing great work in the community, and hear about what HABESHA'S has going on, because we're continuing. We're celebrating the past, but we also are moving forward. I love, Peter Tosh, one of my favorites of all time. He said he's a what? He's a man of the past,
Mm-hmm.
living in the present, and he's walking into the future, and to me, that is Sankofa. When you look at the symbol of the Sankofa bird, I say that symbol identifies 3 states: the past, present, and future. When you look at the bird, the feet are moving forward, right? Standing currently in the present. You know what I mean? The neck is turned back to the past, and inside of the bird's mouth is that egg, which symbolizes that future. So the
Sure.
Sankofa symbol is the full circle of past, present, and future all wrapped into one. And so that's really what the birthday celebration is going to be, is that full Sankofa, where we reflect on what we've done as a people, and specifically as an organization, what we're currently doing as an organization, and what are the things we have moving forward. So I want all of the family to join us on the 3rd. If you can come in person, 4 to 8 at the Arts Exchange, 2148 Newman Street. And if you're not able to come in person, we're actually the following day on February 4th, which is actual HABESHA'S actual Earth Day. We're having a virtual celebration. That celebration will be from 1 to 3 p.m. And we'll be doing that via Zoom, and we'll share that with those who are on our social media. We'll be sharing that out, but we'll have a global celebration. So we
Sure.
want our family all over the world to come and join us, celebrate with us. Those who've been impacted by HABESHA in a positive way. If you've been to an organic fest, you've been through a program, or anything that HABESHA has impacted you, call in, join in, and give a testimony. We want to hear from those family members how they've been touched, because to me, that's the fuel for my fire. When I hear people tell, yo, you remember when you told me such and such, or you remember when you did this and this, or you remember when HABESHA did such and such. It may be something that I may have in my distant memory, but for that person, it's a vivid memory to them because it touched them in a way. And that always lets me know you never know when you're touching people, Bridget. You never know. So I give thanks. But yeah, February 3rd, 4 to 8 at the Arts Exchange, February 4th, virtual, 1 to 3. We would love for our family to come, hear from us, big up the events team that's been putting it together. I can say another thing that I'm grateful for, Kofi, man. Literally, over in Ghana, pretty much the majority of the past 8 going on 9 years, Bridget, HABESHA has continued to grow. Through the pandemic, HABESHA continued to thrive. And I can't say I take all the credit for it, Bridget. I can't say, as they say, you always surround yourself with people smarter than you and that's got vision. And I give thanks for the team, for the years. I want to give a special shout out to Sister Samira, who was holding up the fort while we were here, and all of the family, Brother Charles, Sister Rain. There's so many to name. I don't want to but everybody, they know who they are, who's been holding up the fort. And Habesha has grown and thrived, you know, since haven't been physically present. We give thanks that we've had Zoom and other platforms we can use. But what, again, because we really see this Pan-African unity as based on these core principles, that's why we're able to operate and continue. It's not based on a personality. It's not based on if I'm there to get it done. You know what I mean? Oh, if I ain't there, that meaning it ain't gonna get done. No, when we know our assignments and we committed to our people, the work is gonna get done regardless. It don't have to be personality driven. So that was always my vision, Brethren, because that's what institutions are. You know what I
Yes, sir.
mean? John C. Robinson, he's an ancestor now. But guess what? We see his work every day. I see John Robinson literally every day, Brethren. The plane flies right over the HQ, Ethiopian Airlines, on the way going to Accra to Kotoko International Airport. I see John Robinson every day. And that's
Real
an
talk.
inspiration of a true volunteer Ethiopian. You know what I mean?
Yeah, real talk. That what you're saying there remind me. There's something on YouTube that the family can research for yourself. Is Dr. Ivan Van Sertima. You know, the title of it is kind of cryptic. It said, "The dead live within us." But what he's talking about is, as you just said, you walking down a street that was established, a cobblestone street was established by ancestors. You're in an institution that was established by, you know what I mean? You're doing all these things that was established by people who, you know, whose physical body has transitioned now, but they still within us, and so they live, you know? Yeah, real talk. We're joined by our brother, our brethren, Cashawn Myers. Give thanks for joining us, King. I want to just read this real quick before I let you go, Bingi Shankar. You know, we stay already. I was just looking up. This is the numerology for those of y'all are into numbers, mathematics. Right. The numerology of the number 22. What does master number 22 mean? I'm just reading from undisclosed website, but you know, please feel free to do your own research. Take whatever we say with a grain of salt. And that's one thing I can say. That's really a beautiful thing about building. You know, you always tell the truth. You ain't never got to remember what you said.
There you go.
Just build authentically. But anyway, this master number in numerology is considered to be the most powerful number out of the rest, and thus master number 22 is called master builder, as I was saying earlier, or the master architect. It holds so much power that it can turn big dreams into reality if worked upon it very sincerely. The number 22 in numerology is a very inimitable number. The original Hebrew alphabet consisted of 22 letters, representing everything from creation to eternity. Circles also prominently refer to the numerology number 22, and thus it represents the totality of creation. This is the same reason why this number can make people the most successful as well. This number is said to be a combination of the number 11 and the number 4, as it has the potential to be very intuitive, practical, and systematic at the same time, which is a very effective combination. This master number 22 is in numerology, is more realistic than the number 11 and is less spiritual than 11 as well, but it can manifest things more easily on the earth plane due to its root number 4. This number carries a very high amount of nervous energy, even for the master numbers. Therefore, the powers are unlimited yet orderly, and they are intuitive and yet a bit rational. Those affiliated with this number imbibe great qualities of being confident, idealists, leaders, and exhibit quite big plans and ideas while implementing their work. Can't make this up, you know. I just said, my Irish just said, use the technology we was talking about earlier, right? The ancient technology, without any apology. Yeah, I mean, so happy early birthday to Habesha.
Give thanks,
we're proud, on behalf of our community, we're proud of the work that has been done under the name of Habesha, to uplift our people in this relay race. and
Positive.
just more strength and more generosity, more power, more gentleness, more excellence, more
Right.
everything beautiful to be
Truly.
with Habesha, for the next 220 years.
There
See,
you go. We
because
keep going.
institution building. Yeah,
We
man.
doing no same way, man. Give thanks to the eye, man. And I want to big up WRFG too over the years, man. WRFG has been an impetus for supporting Habesha, throughout, the eye, all the air shifters, IROS, big up IROS, big up all the family, Habesha, everybody who has poured into Habesha. It's really, like I said, Habesha it's a child of the community, like literally,
Yes, sir.
you know what I mean? And that's how we wanted it to be. And that's why I say that's why it can grow beyond just a personality of me, where I don't physically have to be present. That to me, that's success. That's
Yes,
growth
sir.
when others are now in place of leadership. So I'm blessed to be a part of this, to be on this journey, with the eye and other ones, and I know that, years to come, we'll be the inspiration for others, to continue this work that we're doing. So like you said, this is a year of building, and I feel it. I was telling my queen, big up Siobhan. I was telling her, I said, yo, this year is going to be a powerful year, in a lot of ways, and it's already turning that way. The wheels are spinning, and at the same time, also knowing, like you said, the groundedness. I feel for me, this has really been a year, even just to start this new calendar year, been a year of being grounded. And so I'm
True.
grateful. Looking forward to what is ahead for Habesha. Definitely would love to see as many of the family come whenever you're in Ghana. Check us out. Come to Kazi. Go to the website, kaziinstitute.org. KASINSTITUTE. One I, kaziinstitute.org. Check out what we're doing in the work. And yeah, man, just give thanks to the I Kofi, man, for always being a pillar, always making sure our people is connected to what's going on, the pulse of the people. Bless up to the eye. Looking forward to seeing the eye on this side again soon, through the power.
Truly.
So yeah, man, bless up, until next time.
Yes, sir. The mission is a must. So heal up the family on that side. Much love to
Yes,
everyone in the Volta region and the Liatiwote, the Habesha HQ, and we're looking forward to the celebration, my beloved.
yes, I. So we reason up in the forward. Bless it.
All right, all right.
Rastafari.